Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another interesting edition of Baba Ini Baba. My name is Baba Ini Baba, the master storyteller of Nigeria. Today, I am going to be telling you a very interesting story. So come sit, and let's go through this story. Mother Okon, come quickly. There is another baby, she eased at Teacher Okon's wife, who had stepped outside. A hush fell over the onlookers. Another baby? The whisper spread through the small crowd. Another baby? Could it be twins? The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ubong, overhearing, felt as if the ground beneath him swayed. Twins. In an instant, the joy that filled his soul evaporated, replaced by dread colder than harmattan wind. Inside the hut, chaos and miracle intertwined. Ekanem bore down once more with whatever strength remained inside of her. The midwives encouraged her firmly. Push, Ekanem, push. One more. Ekanem felt herself drift between walls, pain and exhaustion threatening to overwhelm her. But then, as if in a dream, she heard the thin cry of a second baby. And the midwife's voice, "It's a girl!" A tiny baby girl had entered the world, slipping out right after her brother. She was smaller but alive and wailing with surprising vigor. The midwives quickly wrapped the twin girl and laid her next to her brother. Ekanem looked down at the two infants now nestled against her, a son on one side and a daughter on the other. Two perfectly formed babies, a boy and a girl. Her vision blurred with tears, not of sorrow or joy alone, but an overwhelming mix of both. She managed a smile at her daughter's scrambled red face, and then a sob escaped her lips. "Oh, my babies, my precious babies," she cried softly. In another place, this will be unambiguous bliss. But here, her tears were tingled with terror because she knew all too well what happens next in this village when twins were born. Outside, the midwife stepped out with a grave expression, holding the newborn girl in her arm. The boy remained with Ekanem's mother inside. A collective gasp ripped through the assembled family and neighbors as they saw the second infant. Whispers exploded like a swarm of bees. "Twins? Twins," they all murmured. One of the village elders, who had come upon hearing the first baby's news, now pushed forward through the small crowd. He was a tall man with a face hardened by years of narrow eyes that now flashed with alarm. He lifted a wooden staff adorned with cowries to silence the murmuring crowd. In a booming voice, he declared, "The gods have spoken." His tone was not joyful, but dread-filled. A weight of centuries of superstition loaded those words. The crowd fell into an uneasy quiet, many covering their mouths or shaking their heads. The elder continued, voice thundering, "One of these children is an abomination. It is forbidden to keep them both. To save our village from the wrath of the spirits, one of them must be given back to the gods." At this, a few villagers wailed in despair. Others nodded grimly, having expected this outcome as soon as they realized twins were born. Fear hung in the air, thick and palpable. Rain does not fall on one roof alone. If the gods were angered, the whole village believed they would suffer. And so, they thought, the sacrifice must be made to protect everyone. Inside the hut, Ekanem heard the elder's pronouncement. Though weak, she dragged herself up, clutching her son tightly. Her mother-in-law tried to take the baby from her, but she held on with surprising ferocity. No, no, please. She panted, tears streaming down her face. Ubong's mother looked torn, fearing the taboo, yet pitying the new mother. Outside, another elder joined in. The customs of our ancestors are clear. Twins cannot be allowed to live. The evil must be cleansed. A number of agreements and fear came from the crowd. Ubong felt frozen in place, heart thudding painfully against his chest. Just minutes ago, he had been the happiest man alive. Now, he was staring at potential tragedy. Neighbors looked at him with a mix of sympathy and horror, as if he were already marked by misfortune. The first elder approached Ubong, placing a hand on his shoulders with a heavy grip. In a low, stern voice, meant to be consoling, he said, "You know the law. Son, the priest will determine which twin is a spirit. That one must be left in the sacred forest. It is better to lose one child than for the whole village to suffer." Ubong felt a surge of anger flare within him. At those words, "lose a child," he thought of Ekanem's face, radiant with joy moments ago, now likely contorted in despair. He imagined the tiny faces of his newborns, one of them taken from their mother's arms and left to die alone in the wilderness. His stomach churned. This was wrong. A great tremor passed through him as he realized he stood at a crossroads. One, obey the traditions he had been taught to revere. Or two, protect his own blood at any cost. For a brief moment, Ubong's legs weakened, and he nearly sank to the ground, feeling the crush of expectation around him. After all, until today, Ubong had been a man who followed every custom, honored every deity, never questioned the elders. He had even scorned those who murmured against old practices, believing it was not their place to challenge the wisdom of the ancestors. But now, the weight of fatherhood pressed on him, and something shifted in his soul. He remembered Teacher Okon's lessons about empathy and Mary Slessor's teachings about a loving God who cherished all children. He remembered Ekanem's joyful transformation and how he had promised to protect our happiness. These were his children, flesh of his flesh, and the thought of harming either of them ignited a protective fury he never knew he possessed. As the elder tried to guide Ubong towards the hut, presumably to decide the fate of the twins, Ubong planted his feet firmly. He straightened to his full height and shook off the elder's hand. In a voice loud enough for all to hear, Ubong declared, "No, I will not give up my children." A silence fell, save for the soft cry of the newborn girl in the midwife's arms. The elders looked stunned, as if Ubong had suddenly grown a second head. Never had he expected defiance of this manner, especially from Ubong of all people, a man known to respect tradition. The elders shook quickly, turned to anger. "Ubong, do not be foolish," he hissed. "Do you dare challenge the custom of our forefathers? Do you want to bring a curse on us all?" By now, Ekanem weak as she was, had managed to swaddle her baby boy and gather enough strength to stumble to the doorway of her hut. She leaned heavily against the frame, one arm wrapped around her son, pressed to her chest. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was a fierce resolve in them. In a trembling voice, she pleaded to all who could hear her. "Please," she said, "please don't take my children away. I beg of you. They are innocent. Harm me if you must. If you must appease the gods, but spare my babies." Her desperate words only heightened the sense of emergency that was already in the air. Some villagers looked away, unable to meet her gaze. To them, this was a tragedy, but one they believed necessary. A few women started sobbing softly on the background, remembering their own sisters or kin who had lost twins in the past. To hear Ekanem now, a mother fighting for her newborns, touched a nerve. But fear of the gods was deep-rooted in them. So, the first elder raised his staff. "We understand your pain, Ekanem," he said, not without sympathy. "But when the roots of a tree begins to decay, it spreads death to the branches. We cannot allow this evil to spread. Both children cannot live." He gestured to the midwife holding the baby girl, indicating she should bring the infant to him. The midwife, duly bound, began to step forward, though tears rolled down her face. Ekanem let out a wail, clinging to the door frame and her son. Ubong quickly moved to block the midwife's path, standing in front of the midwife and son like a shield. "No, I will not allow it," he shouted, voice cracking with emotion. He spread his arms as if to hold back the whole world. By now, a larger crowd had gathered around the compound, drawn by the commotion that had spread. Amongst them was teacher Okon, who had just arrived, slightly out of breath and confused by the scene he found. Villagers encircling Ubong's hut, whispers of twins in the air. At Ubong's shouted refusal, teacher Okon quickly realized what was happening. He pushed through the crowd to the front of the line, where the elders and Ubong stood at confrontation. Teacher Okon, though old, spoke with a clear and steady voice that carried authority. "Brothers, sisters," he addressed the crowd and the elders. "We all know Ubong. He is a good man, a man who honors our ways. If even he resists this, perhaps we must pause and think." The gathered people murmured uncertainty. One of the other elders, shaking with indignation, responded, "Okon, you are a teacher, but do not presume to teach us about our own laws. You, of all people, should respect the wisdom of the ancestors." Teacher Okon turned to that elder and bowed his head slightly. "I do respect our ancestors," he said, "but I also know they lived in different times. Are we not also blessed with brains to think and hearts to feel? Look at this family. Is it right to punish them after 9 years of barrenness with death of a child? Will that bring balance or only sorrow and commotion?" He looked around the villagers. Some nodded, others looked away. Others looked fearful to agree. The first elder, still holding his staff, was about to retort when suddenly a new voice cut through the crowd. A female voice, speaking Efik with an unfamiliar accent. "What is the meaning of this? Why are the people so afraid?" The crowd parted and Mary Slessor stepped forward, known to the villagers as Ma or the white preacher woman. Mary had arrived with one of the teacher's Okon's messengers just in time to hear the commotion. She was a slender, fair-skinned woman with blue eyes that now flashed with determination. Dressed simply as a missionary's cotton dress, she carried herself with the air of compassion and courage. By her side stood a couple of local women from our mission house who had come along, each holding bundles, perhaps blankets for the newborn. The lead elder frowned at the interruption. He regarded Mary Slessor warily. He knew of her influence and her strong opinion against certain customs and traditions. Mary, he said formally, though some elders refused to call her by name. He did so now out of a measured politeness. This does not concern you. It is our internal matter of our village. Twins have been born, and you know our custom. Mary held up a hand, silencing him. Though she was a stranger by blood, Mary Slessor had lived among the Efik and other tribes for many years by then. She spoke the language fluently and had gained respect in some quarters for her tireless work helping the sick and arbitrating disputes. She also had a well-known stance. She was absolutely against the killing or abandonment of twins, the practice she had fought since coming to Calabar. I will speak, elder, Mary said firmly. Stepping nearer, she looked at Ubong and Ekanem, seeing the terror and pleading in their faces, and the two tiny bundles of life they strove to protect. Her heart ached at that sight. She had saved several abandoned twins in the past and even adopted some, and she had prayed such a sin will not repeat itself. But here it was again. Ignorance threatening innocent lives. Mary felt a familiar fire ignite within her. Taking a breath, she addressed the gathering in a voice that all could hear. Twins are not a curse. They are a double blessing. There was a ripple of shock. Some villagers had never heard anyone contradict the taboo so plainly. Mary gently reached out and took the baby girl from the midwife's arms, cradling the newborn against her chest. The infant fused for a moment, then settled, as if sensing she was in safe arms. Mary then moved to Ekanem, who still clutched her baby boy. Mary placed a comforting arm around the exhausted mother's shoulders. With Mary now literally embracing both twins, a powerful image was before the people. A mother and her two infants protected under the wings of this fearless missionary. Mary looked directly at the elders. These children have done nothing wrong, she said, her voice reasoning with passion. The God I serve loves these children. He brought them into this world for a purpose. I will not let any harm come to them. If you truly fear a bad omen, then hold me responsible. But please, leave these babies in peace. The head elder bristled. You are a stranger, he barked. You do not understand our ways, our customs, our gods. This is our tradition from time beyond memory. Who are you to interfere in them? Mary met his gaze, unflinching. I have lived among you for years, she replied. I have eaten your food, learned your language, drank your water, nursed your sick. I love the people of Okoyong as my own. This is why I cannot stand by and watch this barbaric practice continue. I am going to take a break here on this very interesting story. Join us on the next episode for another concluding part of this story. of Ubong and Ekanem. I'll tell you how the story evolved, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bags yet. Until the next time, when I bring you the concluding part of this story, my name remains Baba Baba, the master storyteller of Nigeria land. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.